Okay, dear friends, now we have to move further. I have already just given to you some diagram and you have to follow this diagram. The political history, that is, political policy has already been finished and we have entered into the second one, issue or second one subtopic, and that is administrative policy. So even you are supposed to link this British administrative policy to the specific British colonial interest. It was in this context I have discussed previously in the previous class the reforms made under Robert Clive and his successors, what you know as the diarchy, what was the nature of diarchy. But when Warren Hastings came into power, he made a direct takeover of the British administration in Bengal. So in one sense, it was Warren Hastings which gave an initial formulation to the British administrative structure in Bengal. So now it is in this background we have to move further. This is diagram, we are just at this point, Then Warren Hastings, he took the administration of Bengal directly into his hands and he abolished the diarchy, specific reforms, the standardization of collection of duties. My students, here I am just making you clear, as you have to deal with the topic of foreign reforms under Warren Hastings. Reforms under Warren Hastings. Revenue system. Revenue. In revenue, you can say land revenue, and other duties. Oh, sorry. Land revenue and other taxes and other duties. Judicial reforms. In judicial reforms, you will find here the 3-1, Civil justice, criminal justice, criminal justice. The one is civil justice, second one criminal justice, and the third one is codification of laws. So it is in this background we have to understand the reforms under Warren Hastings. My students, whenever you are going through the book, the most formidable challenge before us is that we are biting a lot, that is praiseworthy. But more important thing is that whatever we are biting, how can we chew and digest them? How can we make it a part of the thought process? Simply we are observing the administrative reforms under Warren Hastings as a bundle of informations which we are going through time and again to preserve them. So that would not produce the expected impact on our writing. Better we should leave all the informations and put all informations aside. Start thinking. What was the primary motive of the British company during the initial phase when the company got the Diwani of Bengal, the maximization of revenue. So it was not interested in doing or taking other sorts of responsibilities because that was going to make a curtailment in the power and position of the British company. So other responsibilities should have been put aside. The maximization of revenue and investment of a part of revenue in trade, even court of directors was expecting the company to do so. The company shareholders were just having the hydra mouth to digest whatever was just offered by the company as profit. So in this situation, obviously you can say it was the company's primary goal. Robert Clive has done some sort of experiments and he didn't dare to take administration directly into his hand, but it resulted into a fiasco. Now the question arises, if you are not having the sufficient amount of land revenue, how can you invest this revenue in trade? And if agriculture is completely ruined, then how can you collect revenue from peasants? You have to be intelligent enough to make a regular procurement of eggs from a hen while keeping the hen in, you can say, at least workable health condition. She should have, or it should have produced the sufficient number of eggs. It should not, you can say, discontinue giving eggs. So that is the true business mind. Robert Clive played with the Indian peasants, the famine of Bengal. So it was not simply, it could not simply affect the company's income, but it also affected company's merchandise goods, because most of the merchandise goods companies used to gather at Bengal. So these merchandise goods were associated with agrarian products. And if they were associated with agrarian products, so far as you are not going to ensure the safety of agriculture, the company could not have sustained the trade. So this was also the matter of concern. During this period, the company was not ready to increase its responsibility, as it would involve too much expenditure and that would definitely affect the company's savings and investment in trade. But it is equally true at that time, the civil justice was deeply associated with the land revenue system. So far as you are not ensuring civil justice, you can never ensure land revenue system at that time. So that was essential for you to ensure civil justice along with the land revenue reforms. And if once you are going to touch civil justice, so that is imperative for the company to touch criminal justice as well. So that's why during this period, if the reforms or some reforms were carried on, they were either in the land revenue system or in judicial system. So this is the background behind the reforms of Warren Hastings. As the Warren Hastings was the first initiator in forming the indigenous companies' independent rule in Bengal, so he became a trendsetter. And he was definitely, he carried on further the work done by Robert Clive. So there was a question, I think in 2017, 2018, I will deal with this question as well. But firstly, please observe whatever reforms had been carried under Warren Hastings. Standardization of collection of duties. Earlier, zamindars used to impose the duties on goods. This system worked as a disincentive for trade. So Warren Hastings developed a new system. Now the right of collection of duties was taken back from jamindars and its rate was fixed. Then it had to be collected only at 5 transit points: Dhaka, Hooghly, Murshidabad, Calcutta and Patna. Definitely you can say any company's officer could have given the priority to the collection of revenue first. So even Warren Hastings gave priority to the collection of revenue first. But here there are the two different types of revenue. One is the land revenue, another was you can say other sorts of duties. So in case of other sorts of duties, there was a very wrong precedent. Normally such duties were being collected by jamindars, and jamindars were active in different areas at every 2 and 4 kos or miles, you can say, some miles. There was some jamindar and he used to impose the tax. So it was working as a disincentive for trade. Disincentive for trade because it was going to enhance the cost of the products, you can very well imagine. So Warren Hastings abolished this system. And instead he just standardized the collection of revenue or duties, and only he fixed 5 transit points, 4 in Calcutta, 4 in Bengal and 1 in Bihar. Means ki Calcutta, Murshidabad, Dhaka, Hooghly in Bengal and Patna in Bihar. So this was the reforms. And judicial reforms, now you have to observe here. But before judicial reforms, I think, my student, I am making you clear about the land revenue reforms first. Land revenue reforms. Up here you can say this was the utmost concern of the British company to maximize the collection of revenue, and it was this objective which led Robert Clive to adopt this ruinous system, what you know as the diarchy in Bengal. Warren Hastings devised another method. He introduced a system, and the system of Warren Hastings was known as farming system. What is the farming system? You may be a bit curious. Here I have to inform you that this was another form of the ijara system under Mughals or Indian kings. So actually, if you will just observe the Mughal land revenue system, you will come to realize that during the good days of Mughal, the Akbar system could work efficiently, and under this system you can say that there was the proper place for the measurement of land, assessment of land, as well as even the collection of revenue. Right from the time of Sher Shah, the safety of agriculture and protection of peasants were kept in view. But after disintegration of Mughal Empire, or during the era of latter Mughals, when the empire came to face, or the Mughal state came to face at the moment of crisis, then the intermediaries became too much powerful and thrust for too much resources in the form of land revenue, led towards development of a system that is known as ijara system. It was a system of auctioning. Auctioning means who is making the highest bidding. So the highest bidder was given the right to collection of revenue. So obviously you can say it was going to increase the income of the state, but at the cost of the peasants. Warren Hastings willingly chose this system, and it came to be known as farming system. So the collection of land revenue had to be given to the highest bidder. Firstly, he introduced this system for 5 years in 1772. It had to continue up to 1776. And here in this system, he consciously kept jamindars away from collecting activities, because he was apprehensive about the fact that jamindars were the vested interest in rural areas, and once jamindars were given some role in the collection of or the assessment or whatever may be the revenue. So then the jamindars could have turned to be the vested interest, and they would start garner a part of the collected money from the state. So it was for that fear he consciously kept jamindars away from this system. He used to appoint divans as well as the collectors. So auctioning system could have been carried under the supervision of divan and European collectors. They used to supervise the whole process of auctioning, what you know as the farming system. But it could not produce the substantial result. Rather, it created some sort of fluctuation in the collection of revenue year by year, and apart from that, it also adversely affected the agriculture of Bengal. And particularly for the fact that jamindars were kept away and kept at bay, so the system could not function in proper manner, because after all jamindars were the expert in the rural areas, and if jamindars were kept away, so this system could not run smoothly. So that's why after 5 years, Warren Hastings just modified this system once again. And in place of the 5-year scheme, he introduced 1-year scheme now in 1776. And in this scheme, even jamindars, or the gate was opened even for jamindars. Means he tried to assimilate jamindar as well. But after all, his land revenue reforms could not become successful. You can very well imagine that who is making the highest bidding and purchasing from the government the right of the collecting of revenue. So such persons would never keep in their mind some welfare of peasants, or some you can say some safety of peasants. They would try to fleece out the revenue at the cost of the peasants. So definitely it would adversely affect the peasants as well as the agriculture in Bengal. So in sum total, you can say, in the other source of revenue, you know, he standardized the collection of duties. Even the, revenue headquarter was transferred from Murshidabad to Calcutta. There he got success. Later I will discuss about his judiciary reforms. There also he got success to a certain extent. But so far as the question of the land revenue reforms are concerned, he underwent a phase of trial and error. So in this way, you can observe this phenomena. Now, observe slightly judiciary reforms. Whenever we are talking about the judiciary reforms, you should keep in your mind the two different category of courts. One was the civil court and another was criminal court. So he established both the separate civil court and criminal court. Hastings reorganized judicial system in Bengal. He established hierarchy of civil and criminal courts. For civil justice at lower level, there was a district court under a district collector. Above district court, there was Sadar Diwani Adalat at Calcutta, where the trial was conducted by Governor General in Council. He just created a hierarchy of court. At district level, there was the district civil court, and here the trial was made by district collector, who was the collector of revenue as well, European collector. So he was just, superintending the court. And above the district court, there was Sadar Diwani Adalat. And Sadar Diwani Adalat was established where? Sadar Diwani Adalat was established at Calcutta. Likewise, in criminal justice, the district court was at lower level. It was placed under a Qazi or a Mufti. In criminal justice, Muslim laws were prevailing, while in civil justice there was duality of laws, Hindu laws for Hindu and Muslim laws for Muslims. About district court, there was Sadar Nijamat Adalat at Murshidabad. Under this court, the trial had to be carried under an Indian officer. Likewise, there was the formation of a Sadr Diwani Adalat at Calcutta, where proceedings had to be carried under Governor General. Court, the trial had to be carried under an Indian officer. Likewise, there was the formation of a Sadr Diwani Adalat at Calcutta, where proceedings had to be carried under Governor General in council. Like in criminal court, you can say at the lower level, means at district level, there was a criminal court. But my students, here I have to inform you that during this phase, the British were not in a mood to, or the company was not in a mood to overhaul the overall administrative structure, Mughal structure. So the Mughal structure had to be maintained with certain modification. During Mughal period, for civil justice, there were the duality of laws, the Hindu laws for Hindus and Muslim laws for Muslims. But for criminal justice, there was there was the singular laws. There were singular laws, and that was Muslim laws. And Muslim laws were applicable to all. So Warren Hastings just preferred the old system with certain modification. So that's why you can say in criminal justice at district level, it was Qazi and Mufti who were the expert of the Muslim laws. So they were appointed and they had to just, you can say, carry the trial of the criminal justice. At the head of this, or you can say just above this district court, there was Sadar Nijamat Adalat. As you have observed the Sadar Diwani Adalat. So there was a Sadar Nijamat Adalat as well. But at the time of Warren Hastings, it was established at Murshidabad. Later, you will just come to know up to the period of Lord Cornwallis, it had to be shifted to Calcutta. But at the time of Warren Hastings, it was established at Murshidabad. Murshidabad was situated in Bengal. On map, you can very well observe. My students, here in criminal justice, I have just told you, in fact, this Sadar Diwani Adalat. In Sadar Diwani Adalat, the trial had to be made by the Governor General and his council. What is Governor General in council? About the Governor General in council, I have to discuss with you later whenever I will teach you the Regulating Act of 1773. Then you will come to know about the formation of Governor General in council. But presently, my student, here for criminal justice at Murshidabad, the trial had to be made by an Indian officer because he should have been he should have expertise in the Muslim laws. Only then he could just make the trial of the criminal cases. So in this way, my students, he created a two different hierarchy of court. A codification of laws. This is the very important thing now. Actually, in the last of this subtopic, I will teach you the Orientalist ideas. Means that at that time, the British administration had to be guided by some sort of Orientalist ideas or Orientalist thinkers who believed. Even Warren Hastings was an Orientalist in his approach. And Orientalists were emphasizing that Indians should have been ruled under their own custom and tradition. So that's why Warren Hastings, later you will find at the time of William Bentinck, Lord Macaulay, and there would be the formation of Macaulay Code. But this situation had to appear after the rise of industrial capitalism, which I will discuss with you. But during this period, in fact, the British was having the limited objective in India, and the British policy towards India was being guided by Orientalist ideas. So that's why there was the emphasis over the you can say governing Indians according to their own custom and tradition. So that's why here Warren Hastings preferred to, in order to bring efficiency in administration, he deemed it fit to codify laws. Codification of laws was thought to be essential. But there should be codification of laws So, but this codification had to be made of Indian laws. It was not the codification of European laws. So he just sought the service of the two different groups of Pandits and Ulemas, which could have helped the government and the officers in codifying the old, you can say, Indian laws. So with the support of a group of ulemas and a group of pandits, the Muslim laws and Hindu laws were codified. You might have heard about a code of Gentoo laws. Gentoo, in place of Hindus, they were earlier using Gentoo. Colebrook's Digest. Colebrook was a scholar and he prepared his own digest. So that is known as Colebrook's Digest. So a code of Gentoo laws, Colebrook's Digest. So such, you can say, code came into existence for the first time at the time of Warren Hastings. My students, here actually later I will discuss this aspect, slightly the critical ideas. The British involved Pandits and Ulemas about the codification of laws. Can you imagine that these laws should have conformed either to the elitist class of Indian society or to the commoners of Indian society? So some sort of discrimination are to be created between the elites and the common people after introducing these laws, because the Pandits and Ulemas, company's government just corresponded to Pandits and Ulemas who represented the higher strata of Indian society. It was not the representation of commoners of Indian society. So whatever laws were just codified, so these laws were basically bearing the elitist Indian approach. And these laws were colored by, you can say, the view of a clerical class.